Hi everybody, this is Maria Clark at Sweet Willow Designs, and today we're going to be making a Christmas ornament. We'll be using some pre-made ornaments that are in this pretty purple color, matte medium, couple colors, and the tools, dotting tools. Now, I have a little special tip for you. We're going to be working on a curved surface, and there's a tendency for the paint to slide down that curved surface. But a way to kind of help with that is to use some gel medium. I have some matte gel medium and some metallic paints, and I'll be mixing a little bit of the gel medium into the acrylic paint, and it'll serve to make it a little bit heavier bodied, and that will help it help keep it in place while we dot on the curve of the ornament. So you can see I'm not putting a whole lot in there. I'm putting a little bit in, mixing it up, getting it to a good consistency, and it will, this gel medium, which you can get in glossy, by the way. I happen to only have matte, so that's what I'm using, but there is also gloss medium. Just use what you have, and it's all acrylic polymer based, so you know it should they should all go together. And go ahead and mix up your paints. Now, one thing I noticed as I'm mixing up the paints is that there are bubbles in them. So I just tap it on my work surface a little bit and pop those bubbles. Now what I'm doing is using a little votive holder and some of that shelf liner, and that will help to kind of give it a little sticky and hold the bulb in place as I'm painting on it. So I'm starting with my largest nail dotting tool, and I'm actually put a few, you can see them faintly, I put a few little marks to help me orient myself. But I will go ahead and I'm going to dot 16 dots with the largest nail dotter all the way around. And it's helpful for me, and it might be helpful for you to keep it straight, to dot one side and then go immediately across. So you're kind of trying to line those dots up. And that helps me to keep them a little bit more evenly spaced and a bit more consistent. So you can see that I place my dots, 8 dots, and then I can go into the middle of each one of those for the 16. And I will do that all the way around. And where I need to, I just dip my nail dotter in a little bit of extra paint and get them all as consistent a size as I can. So now I'm going to go in with the G6. This is the 4mm crochet hook, and drop in another row of gold in between the dots on the first row, and I will do that all the way around for another row of 16. And we'll just keep moving that around. It is really nice to have the little votive holder to help you steady the ornament. Now I'm going to be using the H8, which is the 5mm, and I'll be dropping a row of that teal and doing those in between the 2 dots on the previous row. And this will give me another row of 16. I think these 2 colors, I'm only using 2 colors in this particular piece, the gold and the teal, and I really like how it pops against that deep purple base of the ornament. And I'm going to dry these off. I will dry these ornaments off several times as I move through the piece, just to keep that paint in place. And I'm using the smaller end of the one with the largest end on it to walk the dots around. And I'll speed this up really fast. And you know my technique if you've watched any of the other videos. I like to go around one side first. And that gives me an opportunity to adjust any of the spacing that I might need to as I move around. And it just helps me to get the dots a little bit more evenly spaced. You can see that there's not a lot of space in between, So when I start to go around the other way, I'm not putting the same number of dots. I'm just kind of connecting them. And that gives that nice kind of lacy frame around that teal dot. And we'll just keep walking that around. And we're just coming to the end of that particular row. Now you can see how that's starting to come together. It's looking really pretty. I'm going to go in with the N15, which is the 10 millimeter, and start to put that larger teal dot. I am going to move, I'm only going to put, now in previous rows I was doing 16, now I'm going to move to 8 because I am using the larger tool. So you can see that I do one on one side and then I go immediately across to the other side, and that helps me with the spacing as I mentioned before. So I'm going to go ahead, there's my first 4, and now I'm going to go ahead and just finish up so that I have a total of 8 of these larger dots. And you can see how adding that gel medium is helping to keep the paint in place. It moves a little bit, but not too much, and that's why you want to keep drying it with a hairdryer as you move through the rows so you can set that paint a little bit. Now I'm going to be using the G6 again, the 4 millimeter, to put a larger dot right at the top of that last row. It's so much fun to be able to make your own ornaments, and they're so unique and special. I'm going to be giving this as a gift to one of my nieces, and I think she's really going to enjoy having something special for her holiday tree. So I've got my main largest dot there, and I'm going to go back to my largest dotting tool and start walking those dots around. You notice that I left the top of the ornament on because it actually is handy to help me hold that. So I'm really liking it, because for this one I actually picked it up off of the votive stand and I'm holding it in my hand because this will get close to the paint. If I were to leave it like that, I would run the risk of rubbing up against the paint. And so I will just hold it in my hand and move it around. So walking those dots, one side and then the other. This is really starting to really take shape and become really, really pretty. It's amazing how much mileage you can get out of just 2 colors. Well, 3, I guess, if you count the base of the ornament. Now I'm going to go back to my G6, which is the 4 millimeter, and I'm going to drop a dot of gold right there between those two, the 2 on that last row. Sometimes you'll see me tap it twice or pick up some additional paint if I didn't think I got enough paint or if there was a sizing issue. Now I'm back to the largest of my dotting tools, and I'm going to pick up some more of that teal and just walk 3 dots down for another little design element. Okay. Now I'm moving to the other side of the, I'm still using the largest nail dotter, but on the smaller end, and I'm dropping 3 little crown, I'll call them crown dots, at the end of each one of those gold dots. Okay. I'm back to the smallest end, the smaller end of that largest stylus, and now I'm just going to start accenting because I've got most of the base design down, And don't forget that I've done a lot of drying with the hairdryer in between, so I can reduce the chance that I'll smear some of this paint. And I'm just going to drop a little bit of teal paint in between the gold dots on that first row. And again, you know, these are all design choices that you make as you're looking at how your piece is coming out. You could add these or not add them, add a different element. I just thought this might look pretty to fill in that first row. Now I'm going to go back in with the teal. And I'm going to drop a small, oh actually I see that I'm using a smaller, one of the smaller, because I have that 5-piece nail dotter. So I'm using a very fine dotter to drop just a very small bit of teal in between the second row of gold dots. Okay, and you can see how that's turning out. It's really, really looking pretty. Now I'm ready to actually start my top dotting. That's as much design as I'm going to do for the base layer. And I'm just still sticking with my 2 colors of gold and teal, and I'm adding now just a top dot all the way around. Oh, a little boo-boo, so keep your Q-tips handy so that you can easily wipe that away while the paint is still wet. Now I'm going to use the largest ball stylus and drop a dot of teal on that second row of gold dots. Now I'm using the K 10.5. This is the 6.5 millimeter, and I'm placing a top dot of gold on those largest teal dots. And this is how it's looking. It's pretty much dry. Now I did go back, you can see here, and I added one more layer, so there are 3 top dots on some of these to just add a little bit more access. So on those big teal dots I placed a top dot of gold, and then I went back in with another top dot of teal to finish it off. And I think this really is a pretty look, and will just look fantastic as a hanging ornament. Here you see it on a stand or on your Christmas tree or some other part of your decoration. Here it is from the top, very lacy effect, and then here it is from the side. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoy this. Try this project out. Thanks so much for watching. Take care.